So what is it? Well, it is an SUV from the Genesis brand, and it's a damn good one. The Genesis GV80 is something that would compete against the likes of the Mercedes GLE and the BMW X5, and it does so rather well for considerably less money. When you think of luxury vehicles, your mind probably goes initially to the Germans, Mercedes, BMW, and Audi. And then there's the Japanese, to a lesser extent, Acura. There are other flavors of luxury out there, like with Cadillac and Lincoln, Infiniti in some levels, in some ways, and there's different types of luxury if you consider a Tesla Model S luxurious. I mean, okay, but that's neither here nor there. One name that might not immediately spring to mind for some of you or most of you is Genesis. Now, Genesis has been around for a while, but it's always kind of reinventing itself, and now it is a full-on brand with a well set up lineup. You have the G70, the G80, and the G90, which are three different flavors of sedan. But then you also have this. This is the GV80. Let's start on the outside, because this is a sharp-looking machine that should not get confused for anything else, with the rare exception, if you had to squint, of a Bentley Bentayga. I said squint, but there are elements of both that feel familiar, and I mean that as a compliment to both vehicles. This has its own look and appeal to it, and it mirrors what the sedans are doing, and it looks really good. It's interesting. It's something different in the automotive landscape, and I appreciate that. And then when you slide into the interior, on the inside, it only gets better because the materials being used here are wonderful. The leather is soft. The wood, the open pore wood, feels really nice, and the metal trim is only used sparingly, and it looks really, really good. The sound system here is an excellent sound system. You have a massive screen here laid out in a landscape display, which looks really nicely integrated into the top here. It's over 14 inches big, and then in front of you are two easy to read gauges. There's a full digital display, or you have this half analog, half digital display, whereas on this version, the speedometer is analog and the tachometer is digital, and you can change stuff over there. And then similar to like an Aston Martin, they sweep in different ways, which is kind of interesting. But back to the controls. A lot of people are hiding stuff behind touchscreens, and there is some touchscreen application here, but the things you can touch, the actual buttons and knobs, feel really nice, like knurled metal, like you would find in a Bentley. The rotary dial shift selector here has just a great heft to its movement, as does the drive mode indicator as well. This is a well-built, well-designed, wonderful luxury SUV, and it is definitely luxurious. The only goofy bit on the inside might be the shape of the steering wheel, but as I say that, it is growing on me, and it's something different to look at, and all the buttons for the switchgear on the steering wheel are nicely integrated. The seats are comfortable. That sound system I mentioned is great. And then it's quiet inside. This thing rolls along really nicely at speed with very little noise coming in. There's some road noise, but like I said, it's buttoned up, bolted together really nicely. And it goes too, and that's kind of surprising because there is not a V8 engine under the hood. The base engine is a 2.5-liter turbo 4-cylinder, which makes a very respectable 300 horsepower, and it's backed up by an 8-speed automatic gearbox. Now, the more exciting engine, the one you're going to want, is the twin-turbo 3.5-liter V6 engine. Now that makes 375 horsepower and 391 pound-feet of torque. And you can have these as rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive GV80s, and it's a rear-wheel drive-based platform, so it's set up to make you happy behind the wheel. And this is not a sports car, but it does well. The handling is properly weighted, the brakes feel good. In fact, this has 15-inch front rotors, which a few years ago was the stuff of supercars. Those are big brakes, and they bring this thing down effortlessly from speed. But when you do get the green light, like I just did, and you take this corner and then you floor it, it responds and it gets moving. This thing gets up and goes nicely, very nicely for something that doesn't have a V8. And that's where it might fall a little bit to the competition, is that some people equate the V8 sound and performance with those luxury SUVs, the competition. And you cannot get that here, or at least not yet, but you're paying a lot more money for those. A lot more money. It's possible if you spend all the dough on a GV80 to go into the $70,000 range, but a great one will cost you right in the mid $60,000 segment, and that is so much less than the competition. We're talking, once you put options that match what this has on those other ones, or if you get the V8s, those things are $20,000 and more expensive than this thing. Those things can get expensive quickly. They'll start around the same place, but to add options to those is far more expensive than it is to add options here. And 375 horsepower out of a twin turbocharged V6 is great power. It's plenty of power for this thing. And you have the 8-speed automatic, which is a wonderful gearbox that works well. But you look around and everywhere you touch and you look, everything feels great. A vehicle that makes your life better on a daily basis, that might be the true definition of luxury. Audi's been trying to make it that definition for a while now as it competes against Mercedes and BMW. But Hyundai with Genesis is doing it as well for a lot less.